Hey San San, I'm Daisy Victoria, and today we are going to talk about a super cool project that I just did. I recently finished a really cool skirt for a bridal client, and I thought it would be so cool to share how I did it because I think this is a really versatile skirt style. Furthermore, I did release a PDF pattern for this skirt, so if you have the pattern, which does have instructions, this video will give you a little bit more help with sewing it because it's going to show you how I went through and actually did some of the steps. Now, I've been slowing down on commissions, and to be honest, I'm slowing down more and more as I focus more toward content creation and digital products such as patterns and tutorials. So a commission such as this is kind of a rarity these days. And one thing I really liked about it was that it's such a versatile skirt. I figured it was something I could share that so many of you would like. And in fact, I got such an overwhelmingly positive response when I posted some quick little TikToks about making this skirt. It really motivated me to go ahead and finish digitizing the pattern and release it. So it's actually already out there. So let's talk a little bit about this skirt. For this commission, the client I was making this skirt for, who's actually someone I've known for a long time, came to me with some ideas. So she had some inspiration images on things she liked about certain types of bridal skirts. And we discussed sort of what she liked and what she was looking for, as well as her budget. She really liked skirts that had blue at the bottom of them, and I had just done some work with some ombre printed fabrics, and we thought that this would be perfect for her. So I consulted with her to get an idea of what exactly she was looking for, make sure we were on the same page, and then I set to work on the skirt. I did have to custom draft a pattern to get the skirt right, so I wanted to make sure that the train was right and the shape and size of the skirt was exactly the way that I wanted it to be for her. I didn't film the entire pattern drafting process, but that's okay because you can actually get the pattern. I did start filming during my mock-up stage where I was testing my pattern draft, so that's where we're going to start the voiceover. The music featured in this video today is written and performed by my friend Parvati. These songs are all clips from Parvati's album Copper Lily, which she's recently released. It's absolutely amazing, and if you like the music you hear today, it would be so awesome if you could support her too. I'll put links in the description where you can listen to the full album. This is the mock-up for the skirt pattern. I made the mock-up out of a cheap satin, so that way it would be similar but less expensive than the fabric I intend to use on the real skirt. The mock-up looks really good, but one satisfying part is ripping out all of the seams, so that way I can actually use the mock-up to determine my adjustments to the pattern pieces I had drafted. Now it's time to start cutting out of the real fabric. For the base layer of the skirt, I'm using this really nice Duchess satin. It is a poly satin, and it's kind of a low sheen. I think it looks really nice for bridal projects and actually lots of things. I really like Duchess satin. You may notice as I'm cutting that I'm putting one side of each pattern piece on the straight grain and the other side on the bias. The bias means that it's sort of diagonal to the grain of the fabric, and I'll show you how that affects the construction as we get toward the sewing. I cut a second layer of all the skirt pieces out of a white chiffon, and apparently I didn't film that part. I probably just figured it was the same as the other layers, because it is. This is the ombre chiffon, which is basically the star of the show for this project. To get an ombre effect, you can actually dye this yourself. This fabric came printed. I've worked with some other printed chiffons before too. I've actually designed some ombre myself. I have a red one available in my Spoonflower. You can find a lot of pre-made printed ombre fabrics on Etsy. A lot of the sellers that I've found are in China, so just be aware if you order, check for how long shipping is going to take. This one came from China, and it did take maybe about a month, a little more than a month, to arrive here in the United States. So these are the 3 layers that I'll be using to make this skirt. I have the base layer in satin, and then I have a white chiffon and an ombre chiffon. And let's not forget the most important pattern piece, the pockets. These are cut from the base layer, the satin. As I'm lining up the pattern pieces for sewing, the way I've designed the pattern is such that each straight grain edge attaches to a bias cut edge, and that's going to help the seams to not stretch over time. So if you have 2 bias cut edges together, they're going to stretch more. It's not a problem. Lots of patterns do that. You just have to let it pre-stretch. This is a technique that just gives you a bit of fabric stability for this particular pattern. And especially with chiffons, these fabrics absolutely love to stretch and drape in their own creative ways. So I'll show you a little bit more about how I adjust for that, even with this pattern, as we go through the sewing process. All of my seams for this project are sewn on a regular home sewing machine, and then I have serged the edges on my serger. here you can see how my outer layer of ombre chiffon actually does have a little discrepancy between some of the seams that are cut on the straight versus the bias grain. That happens, especially with chiffon. That stuff is just a little bit funky and it likes to do its own thing. So the solution is to trim off the excess. We're also going to drape the entire hem of the skirt later, but this is just a great starting point, so we're a little bit on track. Here you can see the inner base satin layer primarily sewn together. I haven't sewn the side seams yet because I'm going to place the pockets there. I measured down about how far I thought would be reasonable to reach into the pockets, and then I placed one pocket on each side of each side seam. So there's 4 pocket pieces, which create 2 pockets. After those pocket pieces were sewn in, then I sewed the whole side seam. So basically like down the side of the skirt, but around the pocket. So like the pocket is part of the side seam. For the chiffon layers, I left the entire part of the pocket up to the waist open and hemmed that. And as you can see, that bias edge likes to stretch up a little bit more. Thank you, chiffon. You're so helpful. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it have just a little bit of extra there, and we're actually going to end up cutting that off and evening it out. I had a lot of fun filming these slow-mo shots of draping the layers of the dress on the mannequin, so I hope you enjoy them too, because they were super fun. Once I was confident in my 3 layers, it was time to make the waistband. This skirt is sitting at the natural waist, and the waistband is basically a big rectangle of fabric. In this case, I also used a layer of the outer chiffon, so that way it matches perfectly with the rest of the skirt, so you don't see like just satin at the waistband. It's gonna blend right in. Here I'm attaching the waistband to the outside of the skirt, so the right side, and then I'm folding it over and then attaching the other side to the inside or the wrong side of the skirt. For the closure of the skirt, I installed a zipper. I did this just using my zipper foot and standard zipper installation. And I first attached the zipper to just the base satin layer and made sure that that looked okay. I'm also attaching a hook and eye here. So I'm using the heavy duty skirt or trousers hook and bar. With this method, I can put the hook and bar on the waistband, and then the zipper actually zips just the skirt part of the skirt. That hook and eye or hook and bar up there gives you a lot of stability in the fit. And it also allows you to hook that hook and bar first and then zip up the skirt afterward when you put it on, which makes it just a little bit easier to get dressed as well. Next, I am draping the hem. To do this, I've adjusted my dress form to be the height that I need it to be for my client plus her shoes. That's important. And I'm basically just making sure that the skirt falls to the proper length all the way around. I'm marking this with pins, and that way I'll be able to see the line of pins after I take it off of the mannequin. I did this one layer at a time, starting with the base layer, and each time I finished draping a layer, I went ahead and hemmed it. For this skirt, I decided to use the rolled hem on my serger. You could also hem your skirt using your regular machine by folding it over twice. You could use a strip of binding at the hem. It's totally up to you. So here I am draping the second layer, which is the plain white chiffon. And since I've already draped that inner layer of satin, that's really helpful because I have a completed layer to sort of line up against. And what I'm doing is I'm actually making the chiffon layers very slightly longer than the satin. So that way when you walk, the satin supports those layers, but it doesn't like peek through underneath it. And finally, the star of the show, the blue to white ombre chiffon. I did also stitch the chiffon layers to the zipper. I actually did this by hand after I had installed the zipper in just the satin base layer because I thought that gave me a nice, neat, smooth finish. And here is the skirt on the dress form with pockets. I think this looks so good and I love it for my client. I also love it just as a skirt in general. I think that this style is just so lovely and elegant, and it's a really versatile formal skirt style. I'm really happy with the project and the way it turned out. I am super pleased with this entire project. I think it was so cool. And most importantly, I'm excited for my client to look absolutely amazing on her wedding day. I hope that you found this inspirational in one way or in many ways. If you do get my pattern, or even if you just find some inspiration from this video, please be sure to tag me so I can see what you make. You can find me on all the social medias as Daisy Viktoria. My website is daisyviktoria.com, and a special thank you to my patrons who help me continue to create amazing content for you. And as always, I appreciate every one of you so very much. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you see everything I make. I hope you have an absolutely magical day, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.